Hello everyone, welcome to Chess Wiser, your wise choice to improve your chess. Let's talk about this game played between Gukesh and Zoltan Varga, and it was actually played in European Chess Club Cup round number 2. So before we check this game, if you are watching this channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. So here Gukesh was handling white pieces, so he opens the game with 1 e4. The senior grandmaster from Hungary, Zoltan Varga, replies with the move d5, Scandinavian defense here. So after e takes d5, queen takes d5, we have knight c3 hitting the queen, and the queen goes to a5. And in this position, Gukesh gains space with the move d4. And here c6 is also an option, but he goes knight f6 is on a main move here. So after knight f3, bishop f5, and now comes knight to e5. The idea is very simple. Always bishop c4 is an excellent idea. So bishop to c, in case bishop to c4, then the bishop has to go to e6, prophylaxisly, so to stop that idea. But in the game he plays c6, and now comes bishop to c4. And I would like to show you a couple of traps here in this specific variation. That's why black needs to play this move to retreat the queen to the home square. Otherwise, if you place something like it looks like you are developing a piece, and but the problem is you are actually blundering the game here. After knight bd7, we can go knight c4. Your queen is almost lost now for black, so queen has to go to queen a6 or queen to b4. Let's consider queen to a6 now. So after queen a6, the knight could drop to e3 to give the discovered attack to the queen, and also hitting the undefended bishop. And now the queen has two ways to defend the bishop. One is to uh, defend via the fifth rank, and another one is to go to e6. Let's check each one of them. Say for example, let's go queen e6 first, and we can go bishop c4 and queen c6, bishop b5, keep on attacking the queen. Queen e6 again, but now white could simply castle, and after knight e4, we can simply play the move pawn to d5, and white is clearly winning in this position. And it's very difficult to play as a black here, as your king is still in the center, your queen is being attacked. Another variation which I was mentioning is that to attack, I mean to defend the bishop on a5. So instead of queen e6, black could go queen a5 here to defend this, but the problem is we can play bishop to d2, and after something like e6, it looks like you are defending the piece, but now comes the move knight c d5. The computer suggests to simply take the knight over here, but in case if you are wondering about the queen moves, almost the queen is out of squares here. Let's say for example queen a4 can be played, but now comes bishop b5, the queen is trapped. And you may think about queen takes d4, you can do that, but the problem is after knight c7 check, king d8, and here comes another move, knight e6 check. After bishop e6, we have bishop a5 discovered check, and the queen is lost. So going back, I wanted to show you this couple of variations, otherwise the game is fine here. So in case if you are playing the Scandinavian or e4 opening, I think it would help you. So here he plays c6 to avoid all these stuffs. So bishop c4, e6, pawn to g4, attacking the bishop, and the bishop goes to e4, knight e4, taking advantage of the pinned knight. And here Gukesh immediately castles on the king side. And after castling, he plays bishop to d5. After in this position, he tries to exchange the bishop, and here Gukesh goes knight takes d5. Instead of that, he could simply drop the bishop to d3, avoiding the trade. And after knight b d7, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, and we have knight takes f7. Excuse me, pawn to c4. And if you are capturing this pawn, and you are lost now. So queen takes d4, knight takes f7 check, not a check. So king takes f7, bishop g6 check, and after h takes g6, you lose the queen here. So going back in this position, instead of queen takes d5, c takes d5 is also fine. So the game would continue here, but now comes pawn to f4, trying to open up the center. Still your king is in the center, right? So it is a logical way to continue here. So going back in the game, he goes knight takes d5, Gukesh. So after c takes d5, the bishop simply drops to d3. So knight c6 developing, pawn to c3, defending the center. The point is, if you capture the knight, it is going to be recaptured by the pawn and it is going to hit the knight. So your knight is not anymore on the natural square. So knight goes to d7. And here the right way to continue the position or the exact move is to defend the pawn with the f4 idea, because after queen e2 defending, the black would play queen c7 and again you have to play f4. So for that you can play f4 previously. So here black plays g6, and after king h1, in this position actually Gukesh is preparing to play the move pawn to f5, and he doesn't want to waste a tempo with the move bishop c5 check. That's why king h1. So pawn to h5, trying to open up the h file, but the problem is he is going to open the center. So pawn f5, and now Zoltan Varga castles on the queen side. So f takes e6. After f takes e6, the beautiful move of the game is that rook f7. So simply putting the rook on the 7th rank. Not only that, it is actually pinning the knight to the queen. And after h takes g4, the natural move, here comes another move, bishop to f4, defending the pawn further. But after bishop h6, Gukesh has to simply drop the bishop, otherwise it is of no use, right? So he simply drops bishop g3. And after rook df8, naturally attacking the rook, here comes rook af1, so doubling the rooks. And after rook takes f7, rook takes f7, and in this position, blacks needs to be very, very careful. Even slow moves such as a6 is a blunder here, because already black is kind of in a worse position and white is doing fine. The basic evaluation would say that because of this double pawn, black is kind of lost strategically already. It's because white has this great pawn structure on the queen side as well as in the center we have, and also he has multiple pawn weakness such as e6 as well as g6 and g4. And in the long run, white is going to pick up all these pawns and is going to simplify the position, and he's going to run this pawn up the board, and he can simply queen and win the game. But in the game, he played rook f8, and that's actually the last blunder of the game. It's because now white can simply attack the bishop, which is not defended on h6, and gain some time. So after rook h7, he goes bishop c1, and going back in this position, instead of rook challenging the rook with the f8 move, if he could try this move a6, that is also not playable here, because white could simply sacrifice a piece over here. So after b takes a6, queen takes a6 check. If queen blacks the check, then you are losing the piece here, or white is clearly winning after recovering his piece here. So going back in the game, he played rook f8. Here comes rook h7, bishop c1 going after b2, and in this position he could try bishop to g5 also, like sandwiching between the two pawns. But the problem is we can play bishop b5. We should know this principle by heart, that a piece is pinned, you should attack further. So that's what white is doing here. And after rook d8, natural move, here comes queen takes g4, hitting the bishop. And after bishop takes a6, bishop takes d6, d7 check, rook takes d7, and queen takes e6, and this is a dead last position for black. So going back in the game, he plays bishop c1, and in this position Gukesh plays bishop to b5, hitting the pawn, the pinned piece again. Naturally defends with a rook d8. Here comes the move queen c2. Instead of that, you could if you try the previous idea, that is queen takes g4, you are actually, the game is, the black could easily neutralize the game with queen b6, because our bishop is hit now. If you go down the same line, and there is no problem with black now, so there is no pin, the e6 is not hanging, and your b2 is hanging. So all in all, black is doing fine. So going back in the game, he plays queen c2, hitting the or gaining time on the bishop now. And once he saves the bishop, here comes queen takes g6, and now the queen e6 is hit, bishop h4 is coming, trying to remove the guard. So it's a dead last position for black now. But he tries the same idea, queen b6 here, but now comes the move bishop takes d6 check. Rook takes d6. You may think about, okay, the queen is defending e6. What is now? The idea is very simple. Rook takes d7. After king takes d7, queen f7 check. You are lost now. I mean, in this position, actually, Zoltan Varga resigns the game. It's because I would like to show you some variations here. Say, for example, there are three moves I have marked over here. Let's say king c6. Here we can play queen takes e6 check, as I was mentioning earlier. The white is going to pick up all these weak pawns, and the e pawn as well as the h pawn is going to run up the board. So here there are two ways to continue for black, are the three ways. So suppose king c7, we can go queen e7 check, king c8, bishop h4, immediately wins the game. There is no stopping mate actually. Queen c6, blunders made in queen d8. So going back, another few variation is to consider is that going back to the back rank. So back rank is it's a mate in a couple of moves actually. So bishop h4 check, you has to black with the your pieces and you are getting checkmated. And another move is that the same goes to the c8 idea. So bishop h4, queen c6, queen f8 check, and you have to black and you are getting checkmated. So king c7, queen d8 is a checkmate actually. So considering all of this idea, after queen f7 check, Zoltan Varga simply resigns the game. And it was a beautiful game by Gukesh. It was a simple game, I should say. There was only one blunder by Zoltan Varga, that is a rook f8 move. And after that, the game's completely lost. And another important thing, even if he doesn't blunder that move, I guess because of that, two double pawns on the g file and the weak pawn on e6, Gukesh, I think probably he might have won the game also, instead of winning like this by the blunder. I hope you enjoy this quick commentary on this game. If you have any suggestions or the games to cover, please let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoy this commentary, please like this video. And also, still, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. As usual, this is Chess Wiser, your wise choice to improve your chess.